Captain Sarah Chen stood on the command deck of the TDF Indomitable, watching the end of everything she knew. Through the wide panoramic viewport, Earth was aflame. Red-orange infernos consumed the continents she had called home. Thick clouds of smoke blackened the once blue oceans. "Captain, we have to go." Now, Commander Torres urged from the weapons console. Her voice was steady, but Sarah could feel the grief underneath it. Torres had family on the surface. Most of them did. Sarah's eyes dropped to the tactical holodisplay. A sea of red icons blinked across the map. Zephyrian warships. Hundreds, maybe even more. They'd emerged from beyond the outer rim like a plague. The Earth Defense Fleet had fought valiantly. Now their remains floated as wreckage. 300 vessels, only 12 remained. The Indomitable was one of them, the last vestige of humanity's naval strength. "Sir, the civilian transports are ready to jump," Lieutenant Kim reported from Coms. "Awaiting your signal." Sarah nodded. Behind them, massive transport ships carried what was left of humanity, perhaps 50,000 souls. A fraction of Earth's former population, but all they could save. "This is Captain Chen to all vessels." She spoke into her headset. "Execute emergency jump protocol. Scatter pattern Delta." Luck out there. One by one, the transports blinked out of existence in flashes of blue light, vanishing into the quantum void. Sarah prayed they'd find a safe harbor somewhere the Zephyrians wouldn't follow. "Enemy ships closing," Torres warned. "Estimated 2 minutes until weapons range." Sarah's gaze swept her crew. These people had trusted her for years, believing she'd bring them home. But home no longer existed. "Lieutenant Patel," she said, "prep the quantum drive for emergency jump." At engineering, Patel looked up, face pale. "Ma'am, the drive's still damaged. The quantum matrix is unstable. If we jump now, ... I can't guarantee what will happen. Our options." She asked. "We can try repairs." "It'll take an hour." Or ... "We risk the jump now." The red icons on the display were converging. They wouldn't get an hour. "Begin jump prep. Course Centauri system." "Ass!" Ma'am Patel replied. His fingers danced across the console, charging the drive. "Systems are flagging alerts, but ... it might hold." "They're locking weapons," Torres called out. "Jump now," Sarah ordered. Patel slammed the initiation key. For a second, silence. Then the ship groaned. Lights flickered. A low, unnatural hum echoed through the bulkheads, unfamiliar and unnerving. "Something's wrong," Patel said, sweat on his brow. "The field isn't stabilizing. It's intensifying on its own." Sarah watched as the stars outside twisted unnaturally. Earth shimmered, as though it were being unmade and rebuilt simultaneously. "Shut it down," she yelled. "Controls aren't responding. The matrix is feeding itself." The vibrations worsened. Sarah gripped her chair as the entire bridge trembled. Screens glitched between schematics and chaotic color bursts. Captain Torres pointed at the viewport. Earth was dimming, not receding normally, but fading like a dying flame. The stars beyond glared brighter. The drives ripped. "Open space-time," Patel said in disbelief. "We're not just moving through space. We're in a temporal flux. Time travel. It was theoretical, never tested. Quantum drives weren't meant for this. How do we stop it? Can't. We ride it out and hope the hull holds." The hum became a scream, piercing and high. Sarah felt it in her bones. The stress on the ship was immense. If the hull failed now, they'd scatter across space and time, lost forever. "All hands, prepare for emergency landing," she broadcast. "Secure all systems. Brace for impact." The ship surged forward, plunging into a corridor of shifting light. Outside, the stars melted into streaks. The tunnel they traveled through pulsed with flowing colors and indecipherable symbols. It hurt to stare at. Then silence. The hum ceased. The light steadied. The bridge returned to normal. Through the windows, space looked ordinary again. "Status," Sarah demanded. "System stabilizing," Torres said. "No critical damage. Navigation functional, Kim added. But, Captain, you should see this. Kim's display. Transferred to the main screen. Star charts appeared. Sarah stared, confused. She didn't recognize a single pattern. Where are we? I don't know, Kim admitted. None of these constellations match Federation charts. It's like we're somewhere entirely new. Or sometime, Patel said softly. Scan the area. Full sweep, Sarah ordered. As the crew worked, sensors picked up radio transmissions nearby. The computer processed them, translating gradually. Captain, Kim said, voice tight. Listen to this. Audio echoed from the speakers. A voice spoke in near familiar tones. This is Imperial Station Omega-7. All vessels entering the Kronos sector must submit to inspection. By order of the Zephyrion Empire, this region is under military authority. Non-compliance will result in destruction. Sarah's blood ran cold. The Zephyrion Empire, the same force that had just destroyed Earth. But how could they already be here? When was this signal transmitted? Real-time, Kim confirmed. They're broadcasting now. That's impossible, Torres said. They were invading Earth. They couldn't have claimed new sectors this fast. Les Patel said grimly, we didn't just move through space. We leapt through time, forward. Sarah stared at the chart. If he was right, they hadn't escaped. They'd skipped ahead. And the Zephyrions had only grown more powerful. Computer, she said. Analyze the tech level of that transmission. A pause. Then, approximately 800 to 1,000 years beyond current Earth technology. Silence fell. Sarah closed her eyes. 8 centuries. Earth hadn't just fallen. It was history. Everyone they'd known was long gone. What now? Torres whispered. Sarah opened her eyes. Her crew, still alive, still strong. Thought humanity. Extinct. Maybe they had an edge. We survive, Sarah said. We study this time, and we make the Zephyrions regret what they did. To the edge of the system, she ordered Kim. Stay low. No signals. No mistakes, Captain. As Indomitable moved into the strange unknown, Sarah steeled herself. The galaxy had changed, but so had they, and the fight wasn't over, not by a long shot. Tools. Now stranded in the far future, Captain Sarah Chen stood in the briefing room aboard the Indomitable. Her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the star system they'd entered. Her senior officers were seated around the room, all of them, struggling to make sense of the new galaxy around them. What have we learned? She asked. Lieutenant Kim tapped her datapad. We've been monitoring Imperial transmissions for the past 72 hours. The good news is that our translation systems have caught up. Their language is still based on Zephyrian, but it's evolved more intricate now. And the bad news? Asked Commander Torres. Kim's expression darkened. The Zephyrian Empire rules... everything. There are no free systems, no sovereign species, total control. Every known civilization serves the Empire. A wave of cold passed through Sarah. She'd held on to hope that some corner of the galaxy had resisted the invaders. But the Zephyrions hadn't just conquered Earth. They'd finished what they started. What about humans? Asked Lieutenant Patel from engineering. Any colonies? Survivors? Kim shook her head. According to what we found in their databases, humans were completely eradicated within a century after Earth fell. If Empire hunted down every known outpost, every last transport, they didn't stop until there were none left. The silence fell across the room. Everyone had expected the worst, but hearing it spoken aloud still felt like a punch to the chest. They had clung to the hope that somewhere, somehow, humanity had endured. Now even that hope had died. There's something else, Kim added, her voice more cautious. The Zephyrions talk about a planet called Kronos Prime. It's the command world for this sector. Extremely fortified. How fortified? Torres asked. Kim brought up a visual. 200 warships in orbit. Multiple defense stations with fleet-class weapons. The planet itself is surrounded by layered shields. It's basically untouchable. Sarah studied the data. Kronos Prime wasn't Just a military hub, it was a fortress. Why so important? Kim expanded another display. It's their main logistics and research hub. They store high-value assets there, including ... historical archives. Records of every species they've conquered, including us. Sarah said quietly, "Yes, ma'am. If we want to understand what happened after Earth fell, that planet has the answers." Sarah turned to the window. Somewhere out there was a world that held the full truth, the death of her people, and perhaps the key to everything that followed. Part of her wanted those answers. Another part was terrified by what they might uncover. "We can't be seriously considering going there," Tora said. "That's a suicide run. One ship versus their entire fleet? I'm not suggesting we fight," Sarah replied. "I'm talking about getting close enough to gather intel, learn how the Empire operates now, if we're going to do anything. We need to understand what we're up against." "With respect," Captain Patel interjected, "our tech centuries behind theirs. We'd be spotted the second we hit their scanners." Sarah turned to him. "Or maybe we give them exactly what they expect to see." She nodded to Kim. "Show me the schematics you've been compiling." Kim brought up projections of modern Zephyrian warships. Sleek, aerodynamic, metallic, and gleaming, they looked like works of art. Compared to the Indomitable, they were another species entirely. Sarah gestured to the contrast. "See the difference? Their ships are built to impress, for dominance, intimidation. Ours was built for war. It's real war, the kind where you expect to bleed." "What are you thinking?" Torres asked. "I'm thinking, after 8 centuries of easy wins, maybe they've forgotten what a real threat looks like. To them, we might look like a relic, an old cargo hauler, not worth worrying about." The officers exchanged glances. "Risky, yes? But it wasn't impossible. Even if they think we're harmless," Patel warned, "they'll still board us. That's standard procedure." "Then we let them," Sarah said. "We play the role. Confused, primitive travelers. It's no threat. While they inspect us, we gather data." "That's dangerous," Torres said. "If they suspect anything, then we fight," Sarah said, finishing the sentence. "But I don't think it'll come to that. The Empire hasn't faced soldiers like us in generations. They've been fighting pirates and putting down riots, not military resistance." She turned to Kim. "Plot a course to Kronos Prime. Take it slow. Make us look like a busted engine is barely keeping us afloat." "Yes, ma'am." "Torres, keep security on alert, but power down all weapons. No aggressive posturing." "Acknowledged." Patel rigged the systems. "If they try to scan our records, I want them to see what we choose." "What exactly should they see?" Sarah's voice turned cold. "They should see a forgotten mining vessel, independent, unimportant. Just some humans scraping by in a remote sector." Over the next 6 hours, the crew went to work. Patel and the engineers created false logs, fabrication histories, and fake resource reports. Torres briefed her Marines on how to act like frightened civilians. Kim fine-tuned their flight path, ensuring engine anomalies would seem natural. Sarah spent her time reading up on Imperial society. What she learned was troubling and promising. The Zephyrian Empire had expanded massively. They now ruled over millions of worlds and countless species. Their reach was unfathomable. Their technology, light years ahead of Earth's, but their grip wasn't perfect. Bureaucratic tension festered across regions. Sector leaders fought over resources and jurisdiction. The military was stretched thin, forced to maintain order in too many places at once. And most importantly, the Empire hadn't fought a real war in over 300 years. The last major conflict was with the Corvani, a race that rebelled and were swiftly wiped out. Since then, the Zephyrians had only dealt with disorganized resistance and smugglers. "We're entering Kronos." "System borders," Kim reported from the bridge, "picking up active scans. We've been spotted." Sarah walked onto the bridge and took her seat. The glowing Kronos Prime sun was visible on screen, but the planet was still distant. Sensor readings showed dozens of Imperial vessels shifting. "Formation moving to intercept." "Incoming transmission," Kim said, putting it through. A Zephyrian officer appeared on the view screen, clad in ornate military attire. Sarah recognized the rank, regional enforcer. His ceremonial arm markings gleamed, and his golden eyes were calm to calm. "Unregistered vessel," he said, in heavily accented English. "You have entered restricted imperial space. Identify yourselves immediately." Sarah stood, adopting the expression of someone caught by surprise. "This is Captain Chen, of the Indomitable. We're a mining ship. Our engines are failing. We didn't realize this area was off limits." The officer's eyes narrowed. "Mining ship? Your whole design is ... unfamiliar. We're independent. Old operation, based in the Outer Rim. This ship's been modified dozens of times, doesn't match much of anything anymore. Your origin? Our ancestors were from Earth. Colonies pre-imperial. We've kept to ourselves, just surviving." The officer tilted his head. A flicker of curiosity crossed his face. "Humans. I was told your kind was eradicated long ago." "Most were," Sarah replied, voice heavy. "But a few of us made it through. We've spent generations hiding and mining in deep sectors. We don't want trouble." The officer turned and spoke off-screen in Zephyrian. Sarah caught fragments, primitive, non-hostile, artifact class. Then he returned his gaze. "Captain Chen, your vessel will submit to a full inspection. Any resistance will be treated as hostile. We understand. We welcome your assistance. Please, we just need repairs. A boarding party will arrive within the hour. Prepare to receive inspectors." The screen went dark. Sarah let out a slow breath and returned to her chair. The plan's first step had worked. They looked like relics, forgotten survivors. "Torres," she said quietly, "remind the crew of their parts. We're helpless, grateful, harmless." "Yes, ma'am. And if they want to take people for interrogation, then we cooperate. We're here to learn, not fight. Not yet." Sarah stared at the tactical map. The ships around them were monsters, sleek, deadly, far beyond anything humanity had once built. But even the strongest empires had blind spots. Sometimes weakness wore the face of obedience. As they waited for the boarding party, her mind turned to Kronos Prime's data vaults. In those archives was the complete record of humanity's destruction. If they could access it, they might find more than just answers. They might find the key to striking back. The Empire believed humanity was gone, erased. That miscalculation might be the last one they ever made. Ask ChatGPT tools. Admiral Vexer stood tall on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Supremacy, watching the strange vessel drift ever closer to Kronos Prime. In 4 centuries of service to the Empire, he had never seen anything quite like it. The ship was an odd relic, clearly ancient with heavy plating, visible gun emplacements, and clunky systems that screamed of a forgotten era. "Sir," his aide commander Zikalon approached, datapad in hand. "The inspection team has completed their initial assessment." Vexer accepted the pad and reviewed the report. His golden eyes narrowed with interest. "A genuine pre-imperial human military vessel," he muttered. "Fascinating," Zyklon added. "The crew claims it's a mining ship, but our team confirms signs of decommissioned weapon systems and reinforced armor. Definitely military in origin." Vexer let out a low chuckle. "Of course it is. Look at that hole. Humans designed everything for combat, and their even cargo ships had guns. No wonder they caused such problems in the early days." He stepped to the observation window and gazed out at the ship again. The Indomitable was tiny compared to his fleet, less than half the size of his smallest escort, and its systems were laughably outdated. But its silhouette spoke volumes. This was not a civilian freighter cobbled together over decades. This was a ship forged by a species that had known only survival through strength. "What do you want done with them, Admiral?" Zikalon asked. "By regulation, they should be processed through the civilian integration system." "No," Vexer said without hesitation. "This is living history. The Imperial Museum has been requesting authentic human artifacts for decades. An intact war-era ship with a functioning human crew, this is the kind to find historians dream about. You want them added to the museum collection? In time. But first, I want them studied. It's been centuries since anyone observed." how humans behaved under military discipline. This is a rare opportunity to enrich our archives with first-hand behavioral data. Vexor activated his comlink. Captain Yartex, escort the human vessel to an outer orbit around Kronos Prime. Keep your distance, but maintain visual range. Conduct full scans of their systems. Prepare to interview the crew in detail. Yes, Admiral, came the reply. Do we treat them as a potential threat? Vexor actually smiled. Captain, that ship is 8 centuries old. Its weapons are barely functional and couldn't pierce a modern shield if they tried. The humans appear frightened and cooperative. They're no more dangerous than a museum exhibit. Proceed. Aboard the Indomitable, Captain Sarah Chen stood silent on the bridge as the Zephyrion transmission ended. Through their surveillance tools, they'd overheard everything. The ship's translator worked perfectly, rendering the Zephyrian conversations into flawless English. They think we belong in a museum, Torres said, half amused. Perfect, Sarah replied. That's exactly the impression we want to give, Captain Lieutenant Kim said. I'm detecting high-resolution scans from their lead ships. They're mapping our entire exterior. Full structural analysis. Let them, Sarah, replied Patel. Are our dummy records in place? Yes, ma'am, the engineer confirmed. They access our systems, they'll find fabricated mining reports, fake cargo manifests, and logs from a fake human settlement we supposedly came from good. That's all they need to know. Sarah glanced at the display as Zephyrian escort ships assumed a close formation around them. But it wasn't an attack posture. They were positioning themselves, like guards protecting a priceless relic. Incoming communication, Kim reported. Another officer put it through. A Zephyrian captain appeared on screen this. One in a simpler but still ornate uniform. His demeanor was more direct, businesslike. Captain Chen, I am Captain Yex of the Imperial Navy. You will follow my ship to an assigned orbit near Kronos Prime. Do not deviate. And do not activate any weapon systems. Sarah nodded with a slightly flustered expression. Understood. Our weapons haven't worked in years anyway. We're just hoping to fix our engines and return to mining. Imperial technicians will examine your systems upon arrival. Aurel. Vexor wishes to meet you and your crew personally. Sarah's mind ticked at the risk. A high-level meeting increased exposure, but also offered a rare chance to learn. We'd be honored to speak with the Admiral, she replied, still acting meek. Then follow our navigational guidance and maintain communication silence until directed. The screen cut out. Sarah turned to her crew. You heard the man? Everyone stays in character. Our survivors harmless, grateful, and thoroughly impressed by the Empire's power. What if they demand to take one of us for questioning? Torres asked. Then we cooperate. Give them just enough truth to seem sincere. We're here to observe, not provoke. Security, she added. They're hidden in plain sight, Torres replied. But if they search thoroughly, they won't, Sarah said. Look at how they're treating us. They see us as no threat. It's just a curiosity, not an enemy. As the convoy moved through Imperial space, Sarah took the opportunity to analyze the Zephyrian fleet formations and behaviors in detail. The Indomitable's sensors painted a clear picture. The Zephyrian ships were gorgeous sleek, polished, optimized for fear and control. But they weren't built for war as humans. Had known it. Their design favored swift, surgical strikes against helpless enemies. Their tactics revolved around intimidating civilians. Not enduring pitched combat, their ships had powerful shields but minimal armor, likely to save weight and energy. Their weapons focused forward, with little support for flanking or rear defense. Torres, Sarah said softly, are you seeing this? Torres nodded. Their ships are spread wide. These formations are meant to impress, but in a real battle, they're vulnerable. Exactly, Sarah said. If one of their ships lost shielding, the others couldn't cover it. And look at weapon arrays. Everything's front-loaded. Flanks are exposed. Patel chimed in from engineering. Their energy profiles are off the charts, but their designs are delicate. If one subsystem fails, they don't have redundancies. One breach could cascade. Sarah's face was unreadable. The Zephyrian fleet looked unbeatable, but only at a glance to a trained eye, it looked like a parade formation. built for optics, not survival. Kim, she asked, are you picking up any chatter about us? Yes, ma'am. Fleet officers are. ... Intrigued. They're treating this like a historical discovery. Admiral Vexer has even ordered full cultural studies on us. What kind of studies? They're talking about detailed behavioral analysis, artifact preservation, even personality assessments, like they're dealing with a lost species. Sarah nearly smiled. The Zephyrions didn't see them as people, just remnants. It's fascinating, exotic, but not dangerous. Their overconfidence was showing. Torres, Kim added, I'm getting a better view of the planet's defense grid. The view screen shifted to show Kronos Prime. Sarah's breath caught for a moment. The world was stunning but wrapped in layers of steel and firepower. It was surrounded by orbital rings of stations and weapons platforms, glowing faintly with charged energy. A perfect example of Imperial overkill. How many ships? Sarah asked. 237. Confirmed, Torres replied. Various classes, plus 42 fully armed stations. And that's just what we can detect. There are probably stealth units we can't see. Shields. 6 separate planetary generators. Each one strong enough to deflect anything short of a planetary impact. Sarah studied the screen. In silence, Kronos Prime was prepared for war, but not the kind Illumans fought. The defenses were tailored to repel massive attacks from outside the system. Armadas, fleets, siege weapons. But they weren't designed to deal with a small, forgotten vessel already inside the perimeter. A ship no one would ever see coming. Kim, she asked, how close could we get before they started seeing us as a threat? Kim tapped her console. With their current approach? A few thousand kilometers. Right now, they're treating us like an honored guest, not a danger. If we launched a surprise strike from that close, Kim paused, would throw them into complete disarray. Their defense formations aren't made to counterattacks from within. They expect threats to come from far away, not from orbit. Sarah looked around the bridge. Her crew was battle-tested, hardened by war and loss. They had faced annihilation and emerged from the ashes of a dead Earth. The Zephyrions had power, but they didn't know fear, not real fear. They didn't understand what desperation looked like when it was backed by purpose. And that misunderstanding might be the Empire's greatest vulnerability. Their world had burned, and somehow they'd survived being flung 800 years into the future. Now, surrounded by a fleet that could erase them in seconds if their true nature was discovered. The crew of the Indomitable clung to their only protection. A lie. A lie the Zephyrions believed completely. The Imperial commanders saw exactly what Captain Sarah Chen wanted them to see: a pitiful remnant of a long-extinct species. Harmless, broken, not worth fearing that illusion might be. Humanity's only hope. All right. Everyone, Sarah said quietly on the bridge. Time to play our roles to perfection. Let them study the ship, question the crew, poke around where they like. We're friendly. We're grateful. We're completely unremarkable. And then? Torres asked. Sarah looked out at the starfield beyond their viewport. Then we remind them why it took an entire galaxy to put humanity down the first time. Admiral Vexer walked the halls of the Indomitable, awestruck. He'd brought 12 Imperial scientists and officers with him to conduct the initial survey of what he considered a priceless living artifact. And everywhere he looked, the ancient ship revealed a new piece of lost history. Observe this plating. You're said to Dr. Marin, the Empire's most respected xenocultural historian, ticked by today's standards, thick, heavy, and octi, and welded, but you can see the philosophy. Durability, survivability. Dr. Marin, walking beside him on clawed feet, ran one of her 4 hands over the metal wall. Primitive, but functional. Humans expected to take damage and built for it. There's redundancy in every system. Fascinating. Captain Sarah Chen walked calmly beside them, her expression one of humble pride. Our ancestors didn't have access to your advanced alloys or energy binding methods, she said softly. But they knew how to build things that would last. Indeed, Vexer agreed. Brutal and inelegant, but not without merit. It's easy to forget how much trouble your people caused when they still had their full strength. Sarah nodded and smiled. On the inside, she was mapping her guests' movements and keeping tabs on every crew member in place. Lieutenant Patel was leading a group of engineers on a guided inspection of the supposedly damaged quantum drive. Commander Torres was stationed in the armory, giving a completely fabricated explanation of how their weapon systems had been repurposed for mining operations. I would very much like to conduct individual interviews with the crew, Dr. Marin said. First-hand accounts of Outer Rim survival could be immensely valuable for our archives. An excellent suggestion, Vexer agreed. Captain Chen, would your crew be willing to assist? Of course, Sarah said, her face all gratitude. We're just thankful for the Empire's generosity. We've been cut off for so long, ... Hardly understand the galaxy anymore. What Vexer didn't know was that her crew had spent hours preparing for this. Every team member had rehearsed responses, chosen cover identities, and memorized roles. The Imperial boarding party thought they were inspecting a reliquant. In fact, they were walking straight into a carefully designed trap. How many humans do you think are still out there? Vexer asked as they entered the bridge. Surely your group isn't the only one to survive. Sarah gave a weary sigh. Very few, Admiral. A few thousand, maybe, scattered across forgotten systems. We try to stay in touch, but it's hard to avoid attracting attention. You feared the Empire would target you, Vexer said. Our ancestors resisted Imperial expansion, Sarah replied. We grew up hearing stories of purges and retaliation. We were taught to stay hidden or die. Vexer laughed, his voice echoing harshly. Captain, your ancestors were indeed formidable. They fought without reason and resisted with shocking tenacity. But that was long ago. Look at your ship compared to mine. You can't possibly believe yourselves a threat. Sarah glanced briefly at Torres near the weapons console. Torres gave the smallest of nods. Everything was in position. You're right, Admiral, Sarah said. We're no threat at all. Captain, Lieutenant Kim said from the communications station, putting on an act. I'm getting a message from one of our outer mining vessels. They claim to have discovered something ... remarkable. Sarah furrowed her brow. What kind of discovery? They're not saying over open channels, but they're requesting immediate assistance. Vexer perked up. More humans? Possibly, Sarah said. Or a rare mineral find. Either way, we're responsible for them. I wouldn't ask this under normal circumstances, but may we investigate? The Admiral weighed the request. The idea of discovering more humans intrigued him. Historically, it would be monumental. Very well, he said. But your ship will be escorted. I'll remain aboard to continue my work. Thank you, Admiral, Sarah said, masking her satisfaction. What Vexer didn't know was that the message was a fabrication. Kim had written the entire script and activated it at Sarah's signal. Vexer's agreement to split the fleet was exactly the opening they needed. Send word to the mining ship, Sarah said. Tell them we're on our way with guests. Where the Indomitable changed course, moving away from Kronos Prime. Roughly half the escort fleet followed them. Inside the ship, every crew member took their position. The time was near. Dr. Marin looked up from her scanning device, her face puzzled. Admiral, I'm reading strange energy readings from the drive core. Unusual fluctuations. What sort of fluctuations? Vexer asked. The quantum matrix appears to be active, but far beyond standard output for sublight speed. Laris. Heart skipped. She forced her voice to remain calm. Lieutenant Patel has been working on our power systems. He mentioned recalibrating the matrix. Perhaps I should take a closer look, Marin said. Quantum field analysis is one of my specialties. I wouldn't advise it, Sarah said quickly. The core is unstable, warned that any misalignment could trigger a cascade failure. Vexer waved dismissively. Let the humans manage. Their old systems, Doctor? I'm more interested in how they lived, not how they flew. But Marin wasn't satisfied. She keyed her communicator and began speaking rapidly in Zephyrion. Sarah didn't understand all of it, but caught key phrases: quantum, output, unauthorized activity, full spectrum scan. Sarah looked at Torres. The commander held up 5 fingers, then 4, then 3. The countdown had begun. Admiral, Sarah said, her voice strangely calm. There's something I should probably mention about my crew. Yes, they're not miners. Vexor's golden eyes locked onto her. What? Are they then? Sarah met his gaze. They're soldiers. Torres reached zero suddenly. The bridge plunged into red lighting as the ship's combat systems activated. Alarms blared. Hidden panels slid open. And the hum of weapons charging echoed throughout the corridors. Zephyrian officers reached for weapons, but human guards were already on them. Weapons drawn. Drop it, Torres ordered, pointing her rifle at Vexor. This is our ship now. You dare, Marin began. But her protest was drowned out by a deep, unnatural vibration that ran through the ship. The quantum drive was no longer operating within normal limits. Vexor staggered to the nearest terminal. What are you doing? Sarah stepped forward and activated the external camera feed. On the main screen, the Zephyrian escort fleet was shown. Turning in confusion, trying to understand what had just changed. Patel, she called status, drives at maximum capacity. We're ready to proceed, Captain. You're all mad, Vexor said. Even if you disable us, Kronos Prime will erase you. Maybe, Sarah said. But first, they'll remember why the Empire had to bury us so deep in the past. Torres shouted. Target the lead cruiser. Patel, punch it. Marin stepped forward, pleading. You don't understand. Your weapons can't breach our shields. They're obsolete. Sarah gave her a grim smile. Doctor, these weapons aren't outdated. They're time-tested. The Indomitable surged forward, accelerating far faster than the escort ships expected. Sarah didn't believe in elegance. She believed in impact. Fire, she ordered. Ship's railguns thundered. Not beams or energy bursts, but solid projectiles. Hyperdense, armor-piercing rounds moving at unimaginable speed. The lead cruiser's shields flickered, then failed. The rounds smashed through, shearing into the hull. Zephyrian systems weren't built for this. Launch spread. Sarah commanded. The missile tubes opened. Firing cluster munitions, not precise, but chaotic, erratic, overwhelming. The escorts couldn't track them all. Some missed. Many DIDs single quotes. Kim reported they're breaking formation. They don't know how to respond. The enemy fleet devolved into disarray. The dance was broken. Prepare the quantum ram, Sarah said. Dr. Marin gasped. No one uses quantum drive fields offensively. It's suicidal. Sarah stared at her. That's what makes it effective. The drive core howled. Space around the Indomitable bent unnaturally. You'll destroy yourselves too, Vexor shouted. We're already dead to your empire, Sarah replied. We're just reminders. The Indomitable rammed into the largest cruiser. The drive's unstable field erupted, tearing apart space-time around the impact. 2 more ships were dragged into the cascade. Vexor screamed into his communicator. This is Admiral Vexor, retreat. All forces fall back. The humans are not what we thought. But it was already too late. The Indomitable had made its statement. The Empire's so-called invincible fleet now drifted in pieces, burning, broken, humiliated by a single vessel they deemed obsolete. Alarms echoed across surviving Imperial ships while Captain Sarah Chen broadcast her final message to the stars. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. Humanity is not extinct. We're coming home. Standing on the fractured bridge, Sarah watched the wreckage float across space. 3 cruisers had been torn apart in the quantum blast. Half her own ship was gone. The crimson hue of emergency lighting cast long shadows across shattered consoles as her crew worked urgently to keep the vessel alive. Status. She called out. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, Torres reported, wiping blood from a cut above her eye. Primary weapons are dead. Life supports on emergency power only. How long do we have? 6 hours of breathable air. Maybe less if we burn more power. Sarah turned to the tactical display. The main fleet at Kronos Prime was on the move, but slowly. Word of the Indomitable's capabilities had already spread. The Zephyrian command was now far more cautious. Kim, any transmissions from the fleet? Lieutenant Kim, seated at a cracked console, nodded. Yes, Captain. They're debating how to respond. Some want to attack now, others are demanding reinforcements. And our broadcast, did it go through? Kim managed a faint smile. It's everywhere, ma'am. Every major Imperial channel, civilian and military. They're trying to shut it down, but it's already been echoed into dozens of systems. Sarah allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. Even if they died within the day, humanity's survival was no longer a secret. The Empire's centuries-long lie had been exposed. What are your orders? Torres asked. We can't take on Kronos Prime, but maybe we could try to hide again. Hide where? Sarah asked. The quantum drive's gone. We're not leaving this system. Then we go down swinging, Torres replied. Make it hurt. Sarah was about to agree when Kim's voice cut in sharply. Captain, new signals, dozens of them, from all across the galaxy. Of signals. Rebel chatter, Kim said, eyes wide with disbelief. Colonies under Imperial control are going active. They're using our message as a rallying cry. Sarah rushed to Kim's station. Streams of translated communications flooded the display planet after planet, uprising after uprising. To the people of Andraxis, this is the Free Andraxis movement. The humans have returned. The Empire lied. Resistance is not futile. Corvani. Freedom sells to all oppressed worlds. Humanity survived 8 centuries of extermination. If they can fight, so can we. Wind. The human warship showed us the truth. The Empire can be challenged. Kim stared at her console, awe in her voice. Captain, it's happening on over 40 worlds. Rebellions are sparking everywhere. Imperial channels are being jammed with resistance code, using our transmission as a key. Sarah's breath caught. Their defiance hadn't just made a statement. It had ignited a revolution. After centuries of silence, the enslaved and oppressed were finally rising. The galaxy was catching fire and humanity had struck the match, Captain Torres said, looking at the tactical feed. The fleet's changing course. Sure enough, the Zephyrian ships were no longer moving toward them. They were breaking formation, redirecting across the system. They're responding to the uprisings, Kim explained. Emergency redeployments across multiple sectors. They're being stretched too thin. Admiral Vexer, still seated under guard, finally spoke. His voice carried bitterness. You don't understand what you've done. You've condemned billions to death in war. No, Sarah said. We've given them hope. You condemned them to silence. We gave them a voice. You're one ruined ship, 300 people at most. The Empire still holds millions of worlds. Now trillions under its flag, you cannot win. Sarah met his gaze evenly. You still don't get what humans are? We don't fight because we think we'll win. We fight because we refuse to lose. Over the next few hours, updates kept flooding in. The human broadcast had become more than a signal. It was a spark, a call to arms, a memory brought back to life. On Zarian. The native Zarans seized Imperial command posts and declared sovereignty. On Corvani Prime, descendants of rebels from centuries earlier, stormed out of hiding with hidden weapons and renewed fury. In the Outer Rim, long-dormant pirate fleets reemerged and began attacking supply routes. Captain Kim called out, "We're receiving a message from the Earth's evacuation fleet." Sarah's heart leaped. "They're alive? Put it through." The view screen lit up with the weathered face of Captain Miguel Rodriguez. He looked older, worn by decades of hiding, but his eyes burned with fire. "Sarah, is that really you? Thought you were lost when you missed the rendezvous?" "You didn't miss it," Sarah said. "We just took a detour. 800 years through time, but we're backhand. We're not done. We've been hiding on fringe colonies, places the Empire forgot. Maybe 50,000 of us. Waiting for a sign. This is it, isn't it? Zara nodded. It's time, Miguel. Humanity's going home. What do you need from us? Contact every colony. Tell them what happened here. The galaxy's rising. We know how to fight the Empire better than anyone. What about you? We'll buy you time. Keep the Empire's attention on us while the fires spread. You don't have to die for this, Sarah. You could escape. Join us. She looked around at her exhausted but unwavering crew. These were the last survivors of Earth Witnesses. To its destruction, warriors forged in exile. Someone has to remind the galaxy what we are. Someone has to show them that when humans are cornered, we fight like nothing else in the stars. Rodriguez nodded. Then good luck, Captain, for all of us. And you, take care of our people. The channel closed. Sarah turned to her crew. They were silent, waiting. You heard it? She said. We can run and hide or we can stand. And prove who we are. Your choice. What are you thinking, Captain? Torres asked. I think the Empire's regrouping. They can't let us live. When they return, they'll come with everything. And we're almost out of ammo and oxygen, Torres said. Then we fight with what we have left. Ramming speed, core overloads, fists if we have to. At that moment, Lieutenant Patel spoke up. Captain ... There may be another way. What do you have? The quantum drive's dead, but the core's intact. If we rig it right, we can trigger a directed EMP. It'll disable every ship in the system. That would kill us too, Torres said. Patel nodded. Yes, but it might buy the rebellion the window it needs. Sarah weighed it. A death sentence for them, but salvation for countless others. How long to prepare? 2 hours? Once we start, we can't abort. She looked around the bridge. These people had already given everything. I'm not ordering anyone to stay, she said. Some pods are still operational. Is anyone who wants to leave? No judgment. No one moved. No one even blinked. Then get to work, Sarah said with quiet pride. Patel, begin prep. Kim, send one last transmission. Tell the galaxy we're here to stay. As the crew carried out their final duty, Sarah stared at the stars and thought of Earth, of all who had died without a chance to fight. Now, generations later, their children would finish what they started. Transmission ready, Kim announced. Sarah stepped forward. Her voice went out across every frequency the ship could still reach. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the human warship Indomitable. To every world that has suffered under Imperial rule, to every species told that resistance was futile, to all who still remember what freedom means, humanity has returned. We are few, but we are not broken. We are outgunned, but we are not defeated. The Empire thought it ended us. It only made us stronger. Today, the legend of humanity begins again. Today, we remind the galaxy why it took an entire empire to stop us the first time. And tomorrow, the free peoples of the stars will finish what we started. The message ended. The Indomitable stood alone against an empire, but across the galaxy, the stars were burning with rebellion, and humanity was leading the way home.